realer than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.
And happy Sunday, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Maestro, and I am very happy, very pleased to be going live on a Sunday. It's something that I should probably do a lot more often. I'm going to try to go live on the weekends a lot more often, especially on Sundays. Little bit difficult sometimes, especially when I go to these fights. Last night, I was live in Brooklyn, New York, to see Ryan Garcia, King Ryan Garcia, dominate Devin the Dream Haney. It wasn't for a title belt. We later found out that it was a non-title fight, but he won the fight. A fight that he weighed in for at 143 and a quarter pound. Haney made the weight. Haney did not lose his title. It was a very raucous and exciting atmosphere in Brooklyn. It was a very exciting rock'em sock'em kind of fight. Especially just in the multiple knockdowns. And we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about a couple other things as well. I want to talk about Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo. I want to talk about Teddy Atlas continuously throwing shade on the sport of boxing. I'm going to get into that. We're going to get into even more things. This is Punchlines. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen, and let's go.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
The Maestro.
Fist hits the bag, 1, 2, and comes back. Single fist here. You hear that beat?
Think outside the box, and BOXing on top of them, clocking them, sending back to the corner for oxygen. Golden gloves, I know myself, I know the game, it's not a game, I know the ring, I want the belt. Finding the rhythm, and hit them, split them, and touch them, and tip them, hit that six-pack, with that quick jab. Uppercut the bro, making them fall down, breaking them all down, switch stands, tippy toe, in the hands, give them some more. And I'm Muhammad Ali, anomaly, a Mayweather, Pacquiao, prodigy in the midst of fist, this just S too hot to rock, think out the box, you know I got the rock, speed back.
That would be a little round.
I am back. Happy Sunday. As I said, I'm back, and I'm back home. Went out yesterday, obviously, to the Barclays Center. I wasn't sure whether or not this fight was going to sell out or not, but I got there really early, probably around 4 p.m. Eastern, and there was already 2 long lines at the 2 entrances to the Barclays at the corner of Atlantic and Flatbush Avenues. And I spoke to the security guard there, and he said, listen, man, this is definitely going to be a sellout. So at that point, my questions were kind of answered as to public interest in the fight. That had been the question. The rumor had been that ticket sales were moving very, very slowly, that the tickets had been overpriced for the fight. There was obviously weeks and weeks of things being said and talked about on social media about Ryan Garcia specifically as it related to his mental preparation for this fight, the distractions taking place. I had people telling me he was marrying porn stars and talking about things that I shouldn't probably mention on this stream related to children and in forests and stuff. It was getting wild. So there were also rumors about the New York State Athletic Commission needing to step in and do special checks to see if he was okay. Flash forward to last week, and I headed down to the open workout, which took place at Gleason's Gym, a famous gym in Brooklyn, in Dumbo specifically, down under Manhattan Bridge overpass, Dumbo. It's a very kind of historic and famous neighborhood in New York City, where Gleason's is located. And my initial plan was to take a lot of the kids from my boxing club down there. And I ended up, I think I had two of my young boxers, 14-year-old kids, a girl and a boy, ended up going down there. And I'll be honest, I wasn't quite sure whether it was a good idea or not, right? But they ended up having a good time. Ryan didn't do anything too crazy. You can see some of the workout stuff that he did. You know, a few of the people were commenting saying that he was moving like Spider-Man on the floor of the ring. But he did his open workout. Devin Haney did his open workout. My students took their pictures with Ryan and with other people that were there, and they had a really good time. So flash forward to the press conference, though, the following day, which I went to after the workday, and things were already starting to get crazy. Ryan was saying things. Bets were being made about weight. One thing that I did notice at the open workout, though, by the way, on last Wednesday was Ryan's physical condition. It became pretty clear to me that he was going to struggle to make 140 pounds. Then at the press conference the following day on Thursday, the weight issue was brought up, and he makes a $500,000 per pound bet with Devin Haney. And following day at the weigh-in, doesn't make weight and owes Devin Haney $1.5 million. And what was interesting is at the weigh-in, sorry, not the weigh-in, at the press conference, right? At the press conference, it seemed pretty obvious that his father didn't want him to take the bet. And I asked his father about this after the fight. You guys can check out my content on Instagram and also on YouTube. Following the fight, the dad, Don Henry Garcia, essentially told me that he didn't want his son taking the bet. It wasn't really about the money. It was more that he didn't want him killing himself to make 140. Anyways, he didn't end up making 140. So back to Saturday, I show up. I'm there early. I get to my spot in the media section, and fans start trickling in. The fight card starts going, and it was a late one. Main event didn't start until after 12. I'll probably do another live stream where I talk about some of the things on the undercard. Arnold Barbosa won in what I consider to be a controversial decision over McCombs, who I thought actually won that fight. Bektamir was in an ugly fight. Both guys badly cut. Scrappy Ramirez got upset by my man David from Costa Rica, Tico. He got upset in that fight. But the undercard was not really what most people were looking for. It was really the main event that people obviously turned up for. And both fighters also turned up. Ryan turned up. As soon as that entrance started, the crowd went nuts. By the way, I'm not throwing shade on anybody that's like in love with their country and all of this, but thank God we didn't have to sit through national anthems because it was so late in the night. And honestly, I don't really think national anthems are needed at boxing events. They just drag on. And anyways, I go off on these tangents. I don't like national anthems. They didn't play a national anthem last night. Salute for that. Ryan comes out. He's playing Vicente Fernandez with his ring walk music, right? Devin Haney comes out, and he comes out to 21 Savage. Anyways, the crowd reacted tremendously to both introductions. Fight starts. And look, regardless of what people were saying about Ryan Garcia going into this fight, I was very, 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 very consistent with one thing. Ryan Garcia is almost always in entertaining fights. I can't think of a Ryan Garcia fight where I was not entertained, to borrow a line from Gladiator. No, I was entertained. I've always been entertained by Ryan Garcia fights. And I know all of you have been entertained by Ryan Garcia fights. And this fight was no exception. He came out strong. He came out wanting to do damage. He came out physically trying to impose himself and make it very clear, I am the bigger, I am the faster, I am the sharper, I am the more powerful puncher in this fight. And that is what it looked like. And look, he ended up knocking down officially Devin Haney 3 times in the fight, including in buzzing him in the very first round, which you could, I know a lot of people don't do this, but you could have scored that 10-8 if you were so inclined. He ended up being deducted a point for hitting on the break, which I felt was very unfair. All said and done, he probably could have been credited with at least 5 knockdowns in that fight. He ended up being credited with 3. There were at least 2 where it looked like Haney went down because of punches, and also while in the process of trying to hold on to Ryan Garcia, something that he did a lot in this fight. A lot of holding. No points deducted from Haney for that. Point deducted from Ryan for hitting on the break, which I didn't feel was that fair. Long story short, we get to it, and you know the final is announced, right? And you know it is what it is. We hear the announcement, and by the way, let me just shout out Joe Martinez. I think Joe Martinez is probably the most underrated ring announcer in the sport of boxing. Tremendous job, perfect pronunciation in English and in Spanish, unlike most of these guys doing it. And I just like the way he hypes the crowd up without, I would say, without too many frills. Anyways, here we go. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. This was the end of the fight, courtesy of Joe Martinez. Let's go.
Majority decision. King Ryan Garcia!
And everyone said he was crazy. Crazy as a fox. We told you, expect the unexpected.
And there you go. I don't know what it was like watching at home, guys. In the crowd, it was quite exciting. So there we go. Let me give a big up here to Sly Tendencies. Thank you so much, Sly, for the very generous super chat. He says, I watched all your coverage on 20 different YouTube channel, Maestro. The only spoilers on the card were the D-bag referee and those disgusting judges who gave it to Barboza. Boxing needs to fix this. MEZ Boxeo, you say that Sean McCombs got robbed. I agree. It's funny because I live right by the McCombs Dam Bridge in the Bronx, which links the Bronx to Manhattan and connects Manhattan to Yankee Stadium. And yeah, Sean McComb got robbed. I don't know. Maybe it was the Palestine flag on his trunks. Maybe that offended some people. I really don't understand. I thought he gave Barboza a boxing lesson personally, at least watching it where I was watching it from. I spoke to my man, Ringside Reporter Live himself. Make sure you check out Joe Habib, Ringside Reporter Live tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern, with his co-host, Eric Lorta. He had it a draw. I thought McCombs won that fight. I asked the post-fight presser if they were going to give him a rematch. They said no. So let's see what happens with that. So look, Ryan's won. Haney retains his title because apparently it was a non-title fight. And when there's a non-title fight, the guy who's the champion obviously doesn't lose his title if he loses. I was under the impression that when a guy doesn't make weight, if you lose, the title becomes vacant. But that was addressed by Mauricio Suleiman on Twitter this morning. It is not the case that the title becomes vacant in this case. And of course, Devin Haney will retain his championship. Do me a favor, everybody. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I'm almost at 5,000 subs. This is crazy that I'm so close. It was a little bit of a milestone for my small little channel here on YouTube. But yeah, I started this. I created the account at the end of December 2020. And I really started going live on this in like the spring of 2021. And here we are, spring of 2024. And I'm almost at 5,000 subs. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Check out the content. You'll see that I'm out at these fights. All right. You'll see that I go live here on this channel. I open up the lines for people to join me. We talk, we analyze, we debate. Sometimes we have a good time and laugh as well. But there you go. So look, I got to give a big up to two people. One is Beezy. Beezy texted me. Beezy called me. Beezy made it clear he was picking Ryan Garcia. So big up to Beezy. All right. The other person who I want to give credit to, but I'm not going to give credit to because I don't want to use his name. He's a student of mine. He's a 7th grade student. I call him El Tanquecito. He picked Ryan Garcia. He's the only one of my students that picked Ryan Garcia. The only one of my boxers that picked Ryan Garcia. So big up to Tanquecito. I cannot use Tanquecito's name though because he's a minor, he's a student, and I wouldn't do that. But big up to him because he was, along with Beezy, are the only two people who told me that they were picking Ryan Garcia. And I believe Beezy made some money this weekend because Beezy was talking about putting down money on Ryan Garcia. So there we go. We got Electro Jed in the house. We got Easy Boxeo, a man of principle, a man of honor. He says, I got to eat my crow. Ryan beat my guy. Was disappointed in Devin's IQ and defense last night. He got away from being the boxer. Devin, here's the thing. I actually thought that Devin was going to be more susceptible to the right hand than to the left hook. And I'll tell you why. Devin likes to use kind of a quick up jab, and he can get away with it because he's super athletic. He's got great timing, and he usually has a really good ability to maintain distance, right, from his opponent. So with that up jab, obviously your left hand is low, which would make you a little bit more susceptible to a right hand. I was expecting Devin Haney to be very, very, very judicious with the right hand and to be very, very mindful of holding the telephone, as the old timers say, and defending from the left hook with the right hand. Every now and again, though, because of Ryan's feints, because of Ryan's posturing with his own lead hand, his left hand, that being Devin Haney, would be moving around a little bit, and Ryan, because he's so quick and he has such great timing, would be able to get around Devin Haney's high guard with his right hand, sometimes because he would be out, trying to block catch a jab, or they were kind of like battling with their parries, and Ryan would get around it. Ryan was even posting and hooking off a post of his jab and jabbing and hooking off his jab and just straight up throwing lead hooks. I gotta tell you, when you can throw a hook faster than most people can throw it, even fast punchers can throw a jab, you're gonna be a big problem for a lot of people. You really, really are. And that was the case with Ryan Garcia this weekend. He was a lot to handle with that speed, and with that lead hand, because Devin didn't know if he was going to be a pawing jab, if he was posting with the jab, or if he was going to throw a lead hook or a hook off the jab. And because of that, he wasn't really able to, defend as probably as effectively as they had trained to defend with that right hand. If you disagree with what I'm saying, drop a comment, let me know. I'm also going to invite anybody that wants to come on to join me here and talk about it. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll continue the discussion here on YouTube and on IG. And we're also live on X for all of the people watching on X as well. So for me, a couple things happen here now. And the couple things that happen, of course, are what happens to Devin Haney, and of course, what happens to Ryan Garcia. Where do they go from here? So first thing I want to do, we're just going to go quickly to Devin Haney's post-fight comments. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen, and let's.
Well, I showed that I was a true champion, and that I could fight after being knocked down and being hurt.
You knew that left hand was Ryan's best weapon. You got clipped with it in the first round, early on. It just seemed like you couldn't stay away from it throughout the course of the night.
Yeah, he called me early when I was sleeping on it. He caught me by surprise. I fell asleep on the left hook. We trained for.
So there you
go.
But looks just as I was saying, he was struggling to defend that left hook, and it started round number 1. Sly, I'm going to bring you in a moment. Just sit tight for a second. I'm going to go to one more thing here from Ryan, and then I'm going to bring in my guy, Sly. And here we go. Ryan Garcia in his locker room after the fight. Honestly, you look at Ryan's face after the fight, there's footage of him celebrating 420. It barely looked like he was in the kind of fight that he was in, but here we go. Hold on.
Find ways to hate people.
Reset this. Ryan Garcia.
You did it. So many people out there had faith in you, but there were so many out there who doubted you. What is your message to both?
Don't judge a book by its cover. At the end of the day, a lot of people, they find ways to hate people. At the end of the day, look at the heart, not their appearance. I may look a certain way, but I try to move myself with honor and respect. And I think a lot of people underestimate kindness and strength for weakness. And I think that's what they did this time around.
Speaking of strength, you got Haney on the ground multiple times. How did that feel out there? The whole arena chanting your name.
I mean, it was cool. But at the end of the day, all glory to Jesus Christ. I removed myself, removed my ego. I don't really care. I was just having fun in there. I didn't care really if I won or lost. I just wanted to make God proud. And I feel like I did. And my only regret, I probably should have stopped him, but the ref should have stopped him. I mean, it was really weird.
Well, you did, in fact.
And there we go. Last thing I'm going to say before I bring on Sly and Puro Sur, who are here and are going to be joining me in a moment, is where does Ryan go from here? Well, I got two opponents that I think are fairly logical opponents and would be huge fights. The first, despite him being called a Chihuahua, he's no Chihuahua. He's the human Pitbull. I'm talking about Mexico City's Isaac Pitbull Cruz. I like that fight. Believe it or not, the other fight that I think would do good business and be very entertaining, and I know a lot of people are going to not like what I'm about to say here, so my apologies already if I trigger you with this particular individual, but I think it would be a big fight if they can get it on. And I'm talking, of course, about none other than Adrian the Problem Broner, Ohio.
I know everybody waiting on my reaction, but I'm gonna just tell the truth. Hey, Devin, you gotta fight me now, nigga. Shit, right now you need me, nigga. I ain't gonna lie.
So that was Adrian Broner calling out Devin Haney. I think a Ryan fight would be big business for Adrian. Adrian Broner could just retire from boxing off of what he'd make on a Ryan Garcia pay-per-view. But I'm going to bring in another guy from Ohio. I'm talking about slide tendencies, and I'm also going to bring in my guy, Puro Sur, hashtag CCD, hashtag JPL. How's it going, guy?
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Puro?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Talk to me. Slide tendencies, you first. Go for it. Slide tendencies. I don't know what's going on with him. Puro Sur, you can go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, man. It was a good fight last night. I was entertained by all the fights, to be honest. The Barboza, I forgot the Irish guy who was fighting. That one was a bit of a letdown. Just because Barboza, you just for whatever reason, like the Irish guy fought really well. I thought the Irish guy pulled it off, even though I thought Barboza started the fight relatively well. But anyways, yeah. But I thought the card was cool. And in relation to Ryan and Devin, I mean, just people buy into the hype a little too much, in my opinion. I bet on Ryan, not because I thought it was gonna guarantee to win. It was really great odds. I'm a gambler, so so I put a nice little hundo on Ryan. I got paid out a little bit, but people just buy into the hype and what they hear too much. Like Ryan is a really good boxer. So is Devin. At the end of the day, I think both of these guys are extremely overhyped, and other than a select few this generation, any of these dudes when they fight each other can win. It's just that there's none of these guys are at a level where a win is a sure thing when they're fighting amongst each other. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Look, Devin Haney showed that he obviously is beatable. I heard Paulie Malignaggi talking about this on his channel, Paulie TV, essentially saying that, look, Devin Haney faced off against a lot of guys who were past their prime and twice against Gambosis, but had never really faced one of his actual peers in terms of guys that are potentially, world-class / elite fighters in their prime. I think we got to give him respect for what he did against Loma. We got to give him respect for what he did against Gambosis twice in Australia. But yeah, Ryan proved to be the superior fighter Saturday night. However, I think that were they to kind of propose a rematch, they would be able to interject the fact that Ryan didn't make weight as part of the promotion, and to present this win as kind of rematch as, look, let's resolve the asterisks and let's also put the title on the line. Let's do it the right way and let's see what happens. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't think that's being considered necessarily, because when I spoke to Henry Ramirez, Don Henry Ramirez, his father, after the fight, he made it clear that he doesn't think 140 is the weight class for Ryan, that he's actually a natural welterweight and that he would deplete himself too much to go down to 140. So I don't know if that idea is necessarily going to fly. What I do find interesting, though, is like right after he said that, a few moments later, he's telling me that they would fight Pitbull at 140 for his title. So who knows what the situation is there. But yeah, these guys are all beatable, Puro Sur. Sly, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I had to switch my mic out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go for it.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I was going to say that I think that, man, that was crazy, by the way, last night. I saw that interview you did with Ryan's dad, by the way. That was hilarious. But, Devin, he's always had the advantage of being the bigger guy, and that's why he stayed at 135 for so long. He supposedly, I heard on Twitter, he rehydrated back to 160 last night, but even still, he looks small, and he's not the kind of guy, he doesn't have the power to keep a big, I really honestly feel like he had the wrong game plan. Like he thought Ryan's going crazy and he's weak, because he tried, I don't know if y'all remember, he was throwing single shots like from the hip, way far away from Ryan. Like he was just trying to hurt him, it looked like. And he just don't fight like that most of the time. I feel like Ryan really got into his head with all the antics and shit. That's why I kept saying the Steve Collins reference, because Steve had Eubank believing he was crazy and all this stuff. Yeah. And he took Eubank completely out of his fight.
I think he might have even had Roy Jones thinking it was crazy because he never got.
Yep.
You know,
it was he had the whole world against him, and he showed everybody up, man. It was crazy.
It's a great point that you just mentioned, Sly, because again, one of Haney's biggest attributes to me has always been his ability to stay balanced, right? To manage distance and to use timing to kind of control and maneuver his opponents.
He's an expert at taking your best skill away from you.
Yeah, we saw him just winging wild shots Saturday night, like out of range, off balance.
Did you see the one where he almost hit the ring post with his head?
Kind of gracefully just kind of moved to the side. Maybe it was the orchestra music in the warm up, which was something I've never seen before. Like, hey, this guy brought out like 4 orchestra musicians to play. It was like a string quartet while he was warming up in the dressing room. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw that before Tyson came in. I saw that.
Yeah, so it's all very interesting. The psychological side of boxing, the ability of somebody to get into somebody else's head and kind of get them off their game. And it's happened to the best of guys. I remember Ray Leonard talking about how Roberto Duran did that to him ahead of their first fight. Had him fighting out of character, had him fighting with rage, with venom, you know.
Had him fighting his fight.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I don't want to jump too far into the conspiracy world, but not even a conspiracy really, but UFC just had one of their most successful events, and everybody was talking about how boxing's dead. And I'm telling you, this fight, it put boxing, it gave them the shot in the arm that they needed real bad.
I'm going to talk about that in a moment. That's actually going to be my next segment if you guys want.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I'll preview it. I'm going to be talking about Teddy Atlas. Somebody who doesn't almost ever seem to have anything positive to say about boxing, saying something that I felt was so ridiculous, so over the top. But before we get into that, I want to know what you guys think. Would you guys pay to see maybe I'm crazy. Would you guys pay to see Broner versus Ryan?
No.
Good, bro.
Mine's a simple no. Yeah.
Okay. And what
watch
about
it? I'm not gonna
you would watch it though, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I watch boxing. I mean, like other than like the true circus fights. I mean, like Adrian Broner is a honorable former champion. I mean, yeah, be on his goofy stuff most of the time, but I mean, he's a great fighter in my opinion.
Yeah, he is. And then the second one is Isaac Pitbull Cruz defending his WBA 140-pound championship against Ryan Garcia. Yay or nay? Puro, I'll start with you.
I mean, to me, it must happen. I'm a big Pitbull fan. Unfortunately, I believe we've seen length gives him a lot of problems. So I would favor Ryan in that fight. But I favor Tank in the Pitbull fight as well, even though I was a big Pitbull fan, just because it is what it is. And Pitbull showed me a defense that I had never seen out of him. So at the end of the day, until these guys get to fight and actually perform, we don't know who's going to win. So yeah, that's a fight that has to happen in my opinion. And I would love it.
There you go. Sly, what are your thoughts? Pitbull and Ryan.
I would love to see it. I would love to see that. And you want to talk about a moneymaker? Holy shit, get out of town. You're going to have every Mexican fight fan in the whole country trying to watch that fight. But and in Mexico City, yeah. But the only roadblock I see is that every time De La Hoya does business with PBC, there's always, I don't want to say, there's always some kind of roadblock, stipulation, and they know they're going to make money with Ryan, but at the same time, they don't like to give up their belts. So it's one of those things where I think it can happen, but they're going to probably try to throw up some kind of roadblock.
There you go. And Philly Irish, thank you for joining us, and I really appreciate the super chat. Talk to me about last night. What are your thoughts and about Ryan's future opponents?
I look at it like this. Devin Haney fought to the level of his competition. If you look at it like this, the Loma fight kind of exposed Haney a little bit. I didn't think he won the Loma fight. First, kind of gifted. I didn't think he won more than 4 rounds in that fight. And then you see this, and he's fighting someone in his prime finally, like a top guy. Not a top guy, because I think Ryan Garcia is a bum.
Wow.
I'm sorry, but I think he's a bum.
So if he's a bum, what does that make guys like Devin Haney, Luke Campbell, and the other fighters he's beating?
Tell you the truth, Luke Campbell, like cringe contender at best. Devin Haney, if you look at Devin Haney last night, he fought nothing like himself.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, when he tried to fight himself, like himself, he couldn't. If a guy like Ryan, if you can't hurt nobody, you're not doing anything. And the thing about it is, Devin Haney went back to the old Devin Haney, tried to clinch the whole fight, and when it wasn't working and everything, when the more stronger guy, the bigger guy, was able to get him off him and nail that left hook on him, we knew this Devin Haney was in for a long night. Like, if you look at it like this, Devin Haney was knocked down 7 times last night. Those 4 knockdowns that did not count should have counted, because what is the particular of a knockdown? If you are hit by a punch by the opposing fighter and your knee or your hand touches the canvas, that is considered a knockdown.
I couldn't agree with you more, Philly. And here's my thing. If you get hit by a hard punch, right, and then you start grabbing the other guy and wrestling him, and then you go down, that's a knockdown. I mean, that's a knockdown. The fact that you were grabbing him, holding him, trying to stay up on your feet, and then went down, that's not a slip. Because what initiated the buzz, the hurt, whatever you want to call it, was the punch. He was clearly hurt. He went down. It's a knockdown.
They could have stopped that fight 2 times.
They should have.
I mean, he was out on his feet big time.
I think in the 1 round he got knocked down in, and then he went down again. I think they could have went on grounds when he was on the ropes and everything to stop that fight, because there was at points that he was really not punching himself out, and he was not really defending himself, and you could have just called that. But I think Harvey Dock really did a terrible job last night officiating this fight. Took a point for hitting out for the clinch and everything, the line, but why didn't you take a point for excessive holding? Hitting hitting in his back area, where you're not supposed to hit a guy in his back.
No, you're not.
And I'm not defending that ref. He's usually a great ref, by the way. But he was just off his game last night.
Here's the thing. I
actually saw Harvey 2 weekends ago in Connecticut. I was at the Mohegan Sun, watching Popeye, the fighter from Connecticut, the light heavyweight who actually fought Badu Jack. I actually thought he beat Badu Jack. Anyways, he was fighting in the main event, and Harvey Dock was the referee, and he refereed like 3 fights on that card. Every single one of them, he did a tremendous job. Like, it was so out of character for Harvey Dock to be refereeing this way. It was very shocking to me, almost.
I look at it like this. Here's a question: if they would have scored this fight for Devin Haney, would everybody here consider it a robbery?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I would have had to, especially with the point deduction, and especially the fact that he dropped them 3 times. Here's something though, and I brought this up to Joe. I was speaking to Joe Habib, Ringside Reporter Live. Make sure you guys check out his channel tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. He goes live with Eric Lorda every Sunday. I was talking to him earlier. I'm like, I don't understand why these judges don't use more discretion. For instance, if I'm judging a fight, right, and the round is really one-sided, and and then there's a knockdown. Well, the knockdown usually makes it an automatic 10-8, right?
Yeah.
But if a referee decides to take a point like that, you know what I'm doing? I'm actually gonna just judge that round like it was a 10-8 round, regardless of the knockdown, and then give the fighter another a point. So I'm gonna make it 10-7 just because the referee did. Fuck it. You can't let these referees just get away with this. Like, you are a judge. You have your independent ability to score a round. If they want to impose themselves on the outcome of a fight, no, I'll do the same thing. You want to? Okay, I had it 10-8 with the knockdown. It was so dominating. I'm just going to call that a 10-7 round. And yeah, I'll take a point because you told me to. So now it becomes a 9-7 round. How do you like those cookies?
And here's the other thing. Some of these judges score fights like rounds even. How the hell do you score a round even?
Yeah, that was crazy. I was going to say real quick, too, Paulie Malignaggi's taking a lot of shit right now, but he did mention, I watched his YouTube video of the post-fight, he said that the same judge that scored him 4 rounds against Adrian Broner is the one that gave Devin, the one that gave Devin the split works even.
Yeah,
he's the one that gave,
because they have like kind of a similar style. So, yeah, I don't understand that. So, look, it's Punchlines. I'm joined by 3 of my favorite guys: Puro Sur, Sly, and Philly Drew Irish. I'm going to talk about a few more things. I hope they stick around. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Here we go.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.
Puro, go for it. You're up.
Yeah, and I just wanted to respond to the about the judges and the referee. Unfortunately, it's against the rules, my maestro. Like, what Harvey Doc did was within the rules. So unfortunately, like, if we let the refs do, what's out of the norm, I mean, it just opens up a big can of worms. I agree with you on how you saw it, but what we need is literally reform the ref rules and the judging rules. But unfortunately, and I've seen this, like when something like I didn't think what happened last night by Harvey Doc was super egregious. I've seen worse.
Yeah,
that does happen, and I've seen like I forgot what fight it was, but I believe one of these reporters.
I can give you a fight right now. Juan Manuel Marquez against Manny Pacquiao, when there were those 3 knockdowns in the first round.
Yeah,
one of the referees didn't score it. What was it? Didn't score it 10-6. You remember? And it was like a big outrage about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
the judges, so they do have a little discretion.
Yeah. But the thing is that could have just been I mean, for lack of a better word, a brain fart.
Okay.
At the end of the day, say there was a few more knockdowns in that round. The most you could score that is a 10-6 per the rules. You know what I'm saying? There's 10-5, there's no 10-4. So at the end of the day, the point I was trying to make is that we need some regulation, like revamps or whatever, for lack of a better word. But when I've seen like reporters or promoters actually go to some of these hearings, especially in Nevada, they're not heard. Like they'll literally open up the sometimes they won't even open up the hearings for questions or for
which is crazy because these are state taxpayer funded commissions. So there should
especially
be
in Nevada, the board members are like literally involved with casinos.
That's wild.
That's insane.
So before I get to Philly Drew Irish, sorry, not Philly Drew Irish. Before I get to Teddy Atlas and some comments he made, I do want to address a situation that happened, and I brought up your name, Philly Drew, because I know you love the Mets. Let's go Mets. So, you guys will probably be aware that there was an issue at Citi Field, which obviously used to be Shea Stadium in Queens, home of the Mets. And that Ryan Garcia wasn't apparently allowed to throw a baseball out because they were fearful of like some security issues or something. So I didn't even know this, but shout out to my man Ike Feldman, who used to work for NBC Sports. He's going off and he's doing a new venture right now. I was front row at the press conference yesterday, and I was wearing a Mets hat. I had no idea about this situation. And he told me that there was like some big issue with the Mets and Ryan. So I actually looked it up. I'm not going to spend too much on this, but I thought it was funny because he's like, Maestro, were you wearing that Mets hat to troll Oscar and Ryan? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, hey, you didn't hear about what happened with them in the Mets? I was like, no, I didn't hear anything. I just like the Mets, like the baseball team that I like. So anyways, here's a little bit of it.
And so going back to this fight, what happened yesterday at Citi Field, Mets game? Tell us your side of the story. I saw you guys walking out, and obviously Ryan was very upset.
I walk. Ryan's in the VIP section already, so I walk into the field, to the stadium, and I'm going to Ryan to go say hi to him, and I come across the owner's wife, and we're talking. She's a big fan, and she speaks Spanish and everything, and she's like excited to see Ryan and this and that, and excited for them to throw the first pitch, and then all of a sudden we hear that I think security made a call that it'll be too dangerous to have Ryan and Devin Haney.
So there you have it. Apparently Ryan can't escape drama. Philly Drew, as the lifelong Philadelphia representative of the amazing Mets, I just want to understand if you have anything you'd like to share about that situation before we get to the next topic. Go for it. Philly Drew. Apparently Philly Drew is so speechless about this. He's got nothing to say.
Right? He's pissed.
I never heard of this.
I thought it was bullshit. They were just I watched that interview with Ariel, and I saw Oscar on Stephen A. Smith too, and he mentioned it. I think they were just, you have an opportunity sometimes to not. I don't want to say cancel culture. I don't even like use. I hate saying that, but you have a feel. It was almost like they were jumping on this bandwagon that Ryan was crazy, and they probably had a public relations guy coming in going, "Have you seen this guy's Instagram? He's talking about kids and da-da-da-da-da. This isn't going to help us." Well, you know what? They just made a huge mistake, especially after that fight happened. So
100%.
Huge mistake.
And then you got Oscar at the end of this interview saying, well, you know what? Who cares? I'm a Yankees fan anyways.
Exactly.
We really didn't need that.
They were just trying to jump on the bandwagon of, he's crazy. We don't want to be associated with that. And it's not like baseball's doing amazing as it's not necessarily it's not in a bad place, but it's not in a great place either.
It's a dying sport. I mean,
it
used to be literally quote unquote America's pastime,
I hate Dana White with a burning passion, but he would have absolutely went out and flamed the shit out of the Mets. I wish Oscar would have.
Yeah, it wasn't a great look for the New York Mets. I've been a Mets fan. I used to be an Expos fan when I was a kid. I liked the Montreal Expos, but they closed up shop and became the Washington Nationals. And I switched allegiances to the Mets at that point because I've always liked the National League. Anyhow, I want to get to something else that I wanted to discuss here. And guys, I've been saying this for a while. I don't know what you guys think about Teddy Atlas. I've met Teddy Atlas in person. Nice guy. I was actually at my cousin's house in Staten Island, where Teddy's from. And I went to a barbershop, black barbershop. And I go in there, and there's this white guy sitting in the chair, and I didn't see who it was, but I don't want to sound racist, but it's not normal to see a white person in a black barbershop. But I saw a white dude in a black barbershop. Turns out it's Teddy Atlas. So he's being nice to everybody. He's talking about boxing. People are asking him questions. So that's my only experience with Teddy Atlas in person. It was like a really nice experience. But this guy is got to be one of boxing's biggest haters out there. I don't know if it's because he's got a gripe with Top Rank or with ESPN, or he feels like the guy that got dumped by his ex-girlfriend or whatever the case. I mean,
who's shitting his cereal?
Yeah, he says nothing positive about boxing almost ever. Everything, but yet he never says anything negative about the UFC. I don't know what kind of check he's getting.
I was going to mention that. He's got. He went to the Saudi Arabia event. He was invited, and they gave all the boxing coaches a Rolex or something. But he goes to it's got a lot to do with his YouTube channel too. And if you watch his YouTube channel, he interviews MMA guys more than boxers. From what I personally, I see him at almost every UFC event. And if you watch his YouTube channel, he's always thanking Dana White for giving him box seats.
I'm just gonna say it. He's bought and paid for by the POS known as Dana White.
Exactly.
He's bought and paid for to shit on boxing. And here's the thing. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists, but the funny thing is a lot of these conspiracy theories actually end up being true.
I mean, if you look at the definition of conspiracy, it just means if more than one person believes something.
So in this case, right? I mean, I don't even think this is a conspiracy. This guy is on air repeatedly mentioning the fact that he's getting all kind of perks from the UFC. And I think one of them, I don't know if it's still the case, but I'm pretty sure at some point his podcast was also being platformed by the UFC network known as UFC Fight Pass.
Yes.
So he's being flown out. He's spending time I'm guessing, in hotels, flying first class out to UFC events. And I'm sorry, Dana White has positioned himself as being antagonistic to the sport we all love, the sport known as boxing. He hates on the promoters. He talks about every boxing event being a quote unquote going out of business, fire sale, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he has positioned Teddy Atlas to be a plant, a hater of the sport of boxing. And if you guys don't believe me, I am going to play you one of the most ridiculous things that somebody could say about the sport of boxing, especially right now in the sport of boxing. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen to what Teddy Atlas said recently. And you guys be the judge for it if I'm going crazy with what I'm saying, because this to me was over the top. Let's listen.
Welcome to The Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the voice of combat sports, the legend Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how was Las Vegas? UFC 300. Give it to us.
Exactly.
Give it to us.
He burnt his bridge with Top Rank too. A lot of people don't know that. After the Pacquiao Jeff Horn fight, he I guess got cussed out a bunch of producers, and he said that Top Rank was paying off judges and all this stuff. He burns bridges with freaking everybody.
I don't know how you could expect to keep your job when your job is to commentate on boxing, when every telecast of Friday Night Fights or every post-fight interview he gives when they bring him on to add color commentary or analysis, oh, boxing's corrupt. Boxing's corrupt. We need a national commission. Like, that was it. Yeah, bro. Here are your pink slips. You're fired. But here's the thing. In this clip right here, he's telling on himself nonstop. How was UFC 300? How was it out in Vegas, Teddy? Give it to us, Teddy. Let's listen to him give it to us. Let's go.
Mostly your sword for yourself. Boxing could never do that. I mean, I know there's a lot of...
Did you just hear that?
He's so full of shit.
So boxing could never do that, right? Boxing could never do that. Now, this is my issue at this moment in time when we're talking about the sport of boxing. This is my issue in this moment of time, guys. That comment was literally made after the 5v5 was announced. Matchroom versus Queensbury. Now, let me break it down to you guys in terms of what could never happen in boxing and what could never happen in the UFC. The UFC is a promoter, and at the same time, it's also the sanctioning organization. What has happened now in Saudi Arabia, one of the leading global promoters of the sport of boxing is going head-to-head against another leading promoter in the sport of boxing. They're taking their best 5, they're matching them against the other promoter's best 5. Is UFC doing that with Bellator? No. Is UFC doing that with One Championship? No. Is UFC doing that with Rising? No. Is UFC doing that with PFL? No. So actually, boxing is doing something that the UFC isn't doing, won't do, and will never do. It's the same reason we're never going to see a guy who's out of the UFC, like Francis Ngannou, fight somebody that's still in the UFC, like John Jones. So this dude just needs to stop it. He's hating, he's being ridiculous, and now he's just straight up lying. And here's the thing. I'm going to play you. I don't know if you saw this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you want to talk about what's possible in boxing versus what's possible in UFC. When have you guys ever in your lives seen a commercial? And by the way, Maestro, how would you know? You're not a UFC fan. When would you ever see the commercials? How about every fucking time I put on ESPN Plus?
Oh my God, dude. I watch every MMA event. There's more commercials than anything I've ever seen in my entire life, more than the Super Bowl.
Right. So here we go. When has UFC ever done this? Have a look, have a listen. I'm going to full screen this. You guys can all see it. Let's have a look and let's go.
Gentlemen, you know my rules. We'll have no around. No business. We're going to wait our turn and maintain our manners at all times, or this game's over before it's even begun. Frank, let's have you do the honours. Age before beauty, Eddie. Let's get some fights made. I haven't got all night.
Chop, chop, Frankie. Off you go.
Chop, chop, indeed. That's a cleaver swinging, and there's a killer behind it. He's enjoying his first Friday as a butcher, and 2 guys coming.
That shit was epic. I think you're on mute, Maestro.
Sorry, thank you, Puro Sur, and I'm going to go to you first. I'm not going to play the whole intro to that, but that first 30 seconds speaks for itself. The UFC is not doing that, Teddy Atlas. The UFC will never do that, Teddy Atlas. And by the way, Teddy Atlas, boxing is doing way more than the UFC, and boxing is way better than the UFC. Ever was, ever will be. That's it. Go for it.
I was gonna say I thought that was epic, and I could just be fanboying because I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan, and
absolutely.
Smoking barrel. Snap. Keep it going.
Man, I mean, like to me, it should have broke the fucking internet, but that's just me. Like I said, I'm a big fanboy. Yeah, man. I mean, like it was great. It was I was like the first thing like that impressed me. Like I was never really impressed yet by the Turkey guy, you know, other than when he came out with this the fights that he put on, the production value he's putting into this shit. I mean, it was impressive.
Bro, that commercial, that trailer has me excited the way I used to be excited whenever a new trailer would come out for a big movie, like a summer blockbuster when I was a kid. You know, I was one of these kids that used to like to go to the movies early to watch all of the trailers. Look, from a presentation, from an artistic standpoint, that kills anything I've ever seen the UFC ever do. And then from a competitive standpoint, a promotion versus a promotion, 5v5. When have you seen the UFC do something like this?
And he did it with two organizations that do not work with each other ever. They don't. Like, they barely have only on title unifications. But Eddie said, I haven't talked to him in 15 years. And Turkey was able to bring everybody to the table.
100%. 100%.
You gotta, and here's the key word you missed there too, by the way, Maestro. You said competition. Dana White doesn't want competition at all. He's bought out every single organization that's a threat to him. The only reason the PFL, he can't get PFL and Bellator is because now they're backed by Saudi Arabia. So he hates it that he wants to completely control the market so that nobody can compete with him. And here's the biggest thing. If they paid so well and they put on such great events, how come every single boxer, every single MMA fighter that leaves Dana White, they get a boxing fight? Francis Ngannou said he made more money in his one Tyson Fury fight, which was $10 million, than he made his entire career combined.
By a couple multiples, actually.
Mm-hmm.
By multiples.
He had to borrow money from Kamaru Usman for his training camp in the title fight. I mean, it's unheard. You don't have to do that shit in boxing. I'm not saying that every boxing, every boxer doesn't make that money, but a lot of them make it. But they're making a hell of a lot more than they're paying these guys in the UFC.
So I look, Bogey 708. If you want to come on, and give a counter argument to this, the floor is yours. Bogey, he is right, as in Teddy Atlas. Boxing has become the worst. Equals no heavyweight undisputed in how many decades? Excuse me? We're getting undisputed heavyweight next month.
2 weeks.
Like, what are we talking about? Then Bogey, with all due respect, you're the leaders of the syndicate. What's a bigger syndicate in sports than the UFC?
No shit. Dana sent a threat to Francis Ngannou before his last fight, before he walked out, saying that if he fought him, he would.
Bogey, you don't need StreamYard. You hit the link, it opens up in a browser. You don't need StreamYard to join. Don't worry about that. Just click the link and it goes straight to a browser. So I don't really understand that. I really don't.
Here's the bigger thing too, by the way. Didn't the UFC just pay out over $2 billion in damages for the lawsuit for the violating the Ali Act? They just settled out of court for over $2 billion because buying out all your competition.
They're a corrupt organization.
Absolutely.
Owned by people that could care less about the lives, the health, the finances of the people that they won't even consider employees. How about
independent contractors?
Say that.
It's a shame that Endeavor owns UFC, but you gotta realize like this. It's a shame that the majority of the fighters in the UFC are getting paid way less than the wrestlers in WWE, which is also owned by Endeavor.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the low mid card and the WWE that makes more money.
That's a very good point, Philly Drew. And I would suggest that people that want to learn more about the UFC and how it operates, check out a guy. He's from Montreal. He's got a YouTube channel. He does a lot of documentaries on mixed martial arts and like the business and like things going on in it. His name is Patrick Gavia.
Gavia is good.
He did a documentary on the way the UFC exploits its fighters. It's unbelievable what these guys do.
Also, MMA. He does. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up, but about UFC, you're only allowed to have one sponsor in the organization. The only way you can get more than one sponsor is if that sponsor pays, I think, $100,000 sign-on clause to be a sponsor for the UFC. So you can't even get money from a sponsor until you pay them $100,000. And here's the part that people miss: they just topped the most money made for fighting organizations, $4 billion. $4 billion, and they want you to pay $100,000 just to get a sponsor.
The reason that the Endeavor purchase UFC, this is according to what was in the Patrick Gavia documentary, and it makes perfect sense, is that because of their pay structure, they're so profitable that they can offset the losses of the other assets that this Endeavor company has, because their margins are so much smaller. So essentially the huge margins of the UFC, which are built, I should say, off the backs of the exploitation of these UFC fighters, is offsetting their losses and their small margins in the other assets that they hold. It's ridiculous.
Ari's a genius.
Go ahead, Apurosur.
I was saying Ari's a genius, the guy that owns Endeavor, Ari Emanuel. He's a fucking genius.
Yeah, exactly. So I do want to go to one thing, and Purosur, I'm going to ask you to comment on this first. I'm going to show two clips of Oscar talking about Canelo. The first is from the same interview I played earlier, but a different part of the interview. I'm going to pull it up now. It's from Ariel Helwani's interview with Oscar at a Ryan fight. I thought it was quite illuminating, actually. And then I'm going to play an interview that Oscar gave at an event recently that I was at last week. But let's have a look. Let's have a listen.
Munguia, Canelo, how hard was it to make this fight?
So I'm a co-promoter with Munguia, and Canelo didn't want to deal with me.
Why not?
He I seriously think that he doesn't like the attention taken away from him. I seriously think that, because I'm remembering now, every time I would, be around Canelo, or, I mean, I'm a 10-time world champion in 6 divisions, gold medalist, like, taking the attention away from him and this and that. And, I don't think he likes that. And so he doesn't want me around. And so my co-promoter from Mexico, who handles Munguia, dealt with under my guidance, he dealt with Canelo's people, and the fight was actually made pretty easy.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Munguia is very respectful. He respects Canelo. He knows it's going to be a freaking war. He knows it's going to be a tough fight for both guys, because you got to think Mexican style, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go at it each other, and it's going to be a good fight. But I think that the fact that Canelo had only 2 choices, he had Munguia or he had Benavidez. I mean, so he probably thought, okay, shit, they cornered me. Let me pick Munguia.
How do you think it
I
plays
know
out?
Coro was about to go in.
I think it could be the changing of the guards. I really do. You take a look at Canelo, which I respect. As a fighter, I respect him, because as a fighter, I respect every single person that steps inside the ring or the octagon. You have to, right? But you take a look at his career, and the decline, slowly has been happening. He's had operations on his knees, his shoulders. He's got over 60 fights. He started professionally when he was 15. You can see the wear and tear. You can see the decline. Munguia's 27 years old. Canelo's 35, 34 years old. So this could be the changing of the guards. This could be De La Hoya Chavez all over again. This could be, it happens in the sport all the time. The young fighter comes in and just handles the old veteran. So we could see that come May 4th.
Do you think it's going to be awkward on fight week between you two?
No.
Will you
And
try
like
to
I
speak
said,
to him to bury the hatchet?
Yeah, I'm just gonna speak the truth.
Right.
When I'm promoting this and on the podium, look, I'm not gonna hold back. I'm not. I'm gonna wait till fight week. I'm gonna go hard.
You are?
Oh, hell yeah.
In what respect? What do you mean? What do you mean go hard?
I'm gonna talk shit like there's no tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On Canelo?
Hell yeah. You know the shit that he's talked about me?
Yeah. I see when you're up there on the day, it's like he's kind of like dismissive of you and stuff like that, like his body language and all that. So you got some stuff in the chamber.
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow.
He's got all kinds of stuff.
You look at it like this.
Go for it, Philly,
Like-
and then Puro Sur. Go for it.
I looked at it like this. This fight, and people are looking to after this fight because presumably he is going to probably beat Jaime Munguia and everything. I think he's going to beat him. I think majority thinks he's going to beat Jaime Munguia and everything. But to September. Now, people are saying that, hey, Edgar Berlanga has been elevated to become the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez, the WBA mandatory. And people got to look at it like this. I don't think that fight is going to happen because the PBC will not want to do business with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn is Berlanga's promoter. And another thing is that I don't think Canelo will ever go back to DAZN because Canelo would not. Then he tried to get away with having to make the fights that he wants. They told him, no, you're not going to give him it. And then he attempted to sue DAZN, Oscar, and everything. That's what the falling out happened with Oscar and Canelo over that. Oh, they're not paying me what they promised they pay me for fighting for fighting a not like a low weight competitor to others that they wanted and everything. So I really, to the people that think that, hey, he's gonna fight Berlanga, I don't think it's gonna happen. And I really think that PBC will make the fight because they don't care. Hey, it's like, get Canelo what he wants and everything. They don't care about losing money at all. But DAZN, that's why I don't think he would go back to DAZN because DAZN's not going to stand for that. Let him know his fight's got to be on pay-per-view. If we're paying you this salary, you got to fight. You got to fight somebody that the people want and everything. And now that he's rated Moel and Benavidez out of 168 and everything, who else is there for him to fight? And Billy? Is Top Rank going to send a Billy over to the PBC to fight Canelo Alvarez? And tell you the truth, here's another question. Is the fight going to sell on pay-per-view? Because Billy is actually little known when it comes to the mainstream boxing of casual boxers fans and everything.
Yeah.
So
look, yeah, that was interesting. The fact that it almost seems like they were maneuvered out of the division and offered trinket secondary titles. Both Benavidez with the WBC interim and David Morrell Jr. with the WBC regular, which I guess they've recreated at 175. Very odd, for sure. But Puro, talk to me about your thoughts on Oscar's comments about Canelo.
I mean, to be honest, there's not much to think. Oscar's a clown when it comes to this type of stuff, bro. He's not going to mention, how he ruined the fight between him and Jermall Charlo, by sticking his nose out saying that DAZN had to be involved when DAZN themselves said, yeah, we Jaime can do this fight if he wants to. We're not blocking this fight. So that was a bunch of bullshit, but whatever. But at the end of the day, he's going to be able to talk all this shit and Canelo can say very little because I don't know if anybody remembers when they actually went into the litigation or whatever to get out of that contract because of whatever. Like there's a gag order on Canelo's end on what he can say and what he can't say in relation to that settlement. So at the end of the day, I think it was proven really clear by him being able to get out of his contract because we all know if the promoter can, they're going to keep their fighter under contract. They're not going to, especially the cash cow of the division. He's had problems with Garcia in contract disputes. Like I said, the issue with him and the Jermell fight that could it would have been huge for Jermell and for Jaime to make that fight happen, and for the sport of boxing because that would have been the first time before Ryan and Tank fought that these two guys were gonna make music. But whatever. At the end of the day, I really don't take too much into it. you know, a lot of people will probably point to my bias of me against Oscar De La Hoya, and the only bias I have is of the antics that he does as a promoter in him. Because as a fighter, I'm proud that he represented California, Mexico. You know, I'm proud of that's a guy that makes that made the sport better. You know, so it's not the fighter end. You know,
The pride of
the
East LA.
you know, I mean, I didn't like it a lot, you know, because I was a young man, so it was dumb kid shit. But at the end of the day, you know, he's you know, I'm proud to call him, you know, a champion, you know, of boxing. You know,
there
you have to understand that this is typical Canelo, Oscar De La Hoya behavior. There's no love lost. They've said a lot of bad shit about each other. And I love Oscar, but it's like Pro said, the only thing that turns me off with Oscar is that sometimes his ego gets in between what could have. I mean, for example, the Charlo fight, you know, his ego stopped that. And we got to have you know, sometimes you got to, when it comes to business, you know, and I'm not saying this like I'm a fight promoter or whatever, but sometimes you got to put your ego aside and do what's best for the sport, like Eddie and Frank are doing right now.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, of course he's going to say that. What's that?
Hey, I gotta go, Maestro.
He would say that. See you, Philly.
Yeah, take care, Philly.
That wouldn't he, though? That's just like Canelo, because you know, he felt like Canelo bankrupted his company when he took all the people with him with Richard Schaefer.
Yeah, do me a favor, Sly. Just try reconnecting because you were coming in.
Oh shit, sorry.
Chippy there at the end. It's all good.
I'll jump in and out.
Yeah, just come back in. And Big Brian, thank you for joining me, brother. You talk to me about your thoughts of last night's card at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, and then talk about anything else you'd like to talk about. Go for it.
Moderately, no. Very entertaining. Very entertaining. That fight was. I mean, I don't think anybody came out there, you know, watching that card all its entirety with Beck the Bully, Scrappy, and of course the main event, Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. I believe that was a very good card, very good showing. Man, I mean, that was a Ryan Garcia came to fight. He fooled everybody, I guess. You know, I thought there was 4 knockdowns. I don't know what happened with. I thought it was 4 knockdowns. I guess they said it's 3. But
I thought there was 5 knockdowns last night.
Huh?
I thought there were at least 5 knockdowns last night.
No, exactly. I thought there was more than 4. You know, but I guess they just made. I guess it's only 3 knockdowns they scored for whatever reason. That I'm gonna say is that referee, man. I don't know what it is. Some of these referees, man, they be doing shit to be trying to save dudes, man, and it's very irritating.
Well, for me, the issue is, and I said this earlier in the show, if you get hurt by a punch and then you try to grab up the guy that landed the punch, and then in the process of trying to wrestle him and hug him and stay on your feet, you fall down, that's not a slip. That's a knockdown.
That's a knockdown.
That happened at least 2 times, maybe even 3 times yesterday. And he wasn't given credit for those knockdowns. And then obviously there was the punch on the break, which was a very sloppy job of enforcing a break. I like Harvey Doc. I've seen him multiple times live at fights, do a great job. He definitely had an off night last night. I'm not too sure why that happened, how it happened, but it happened. Multiple knockdowns were missed in last night's fight. And, you know, it led to essentially a majority decision, right?
Almost a robbery.
Almost a robbery in a fight that should have been a clear unanimous decision. And maybe, to be honest, Ryan was robbed of a stoppage victory. I mean,
yes,
that's the other thing. I haven't really seen or heard anybody say here today yet. I mean, Ryan could have potentially got a stoppage last night, and it was kind of taken from him. Go for it.
It's very similar. I'm gonna say this. The way this was officiated was very similar to how Kenny Bayless was officiating that Benavidez and what's old dude's name?
Caleb Plant.
Caleb Plant fight. It very, very, very eerily similar how they were.
Kenny Bayless, Fury Wilder too.
Yeah.
Breaking up the action.
Yeah.
They keep breaking up, bro. Okay, let me hit that point. Let me hit the point with the clinching part, right? Once again, clinching has always been a part of boxing, right? Now, back in the day, guys would clinch up and actually fight. You know, these guys today, they don't know how to fight in clinch. 90, I would say 98% of these fighters, they don't know how to fight in the clinch. And a lot of these dudes, they use that as a bailout because they lack a certain skill set on the offensive end, you know, to actually, because we saw it with Devin Haney. There's a lack, and finally somebody came out and said it. Antonio Tarver said it best, man. I did not see a lack of skill when this. I mean, Ryan Garcia has no foot speed, no footwork at all. All right, not even foot speed to make himself elusive in any way, shape, or form, or move around. And he didn't know how to cut the ring off. Like that shows me that dude is lacking a specific skill set in that department. And when you're clinching up a lot of times, when you're initiating clinches like that, that's a sign of someone that is lacking that has a deficiency in skill set in the sport of boxing as far as being able to create his offense, right? Because you know, you jab and then you hold, you jab 1-2 and then you hold,
Do you think he needs to break away from his dad?
I think so, yeah. Because his dad is not. I mean, okay, I'm gonna say this: his dad was definitely beneficial to that fight. In the which fight was it? The Loma Chico.
Cambosa's fights for sure, and the Loma fight.
Yeah, the Loma in the Cambosa fight, he was very essential into his son getting
he did a good
victory.
job of settling down Devin too when he got buzzed by Linares in that fight as well.
Oh yeah, and when Devin Haney sat on camera, was sitting in the corner there, yeah, he figured me out. It was good coaching by Bill Haney. So I would say this. I think that here's the thing, and this is what we got to understand something. And I said this years ago, even though I had Devin Haney winning this fight going into the fight, but I said this years ago about Haney. He's first and foremost, we know that he's essentially a weight bully. We understand that. But one thing about his style and skill set, right? I mean, we know he's not a puncher, but whenever he fights somebody of his same dimensions as far as his height and his reach, which he had a 2-inch reach advantage, but it's nullified because the dude has pretty much similar dimensions. Of course, different body style, but similar dimensions. What he likes to do is gonna be taken away a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be taken away a lot, actually. You know, and we saw how ineffective he was. And of course, once again, his chin is not there. Whenever he faces a big puncher, this is what's going to happen. If he faces a big puncher, this is what was going to go. This is what is going to happen. And we've never seen him get dropped. We've never seen him in that kind of adversity, like we saw last fight or this past fight. And I think that's what we need to attribute that aspect as well. And another thing too, Devin Haney has a certain capability of defense, but he is there for the overhand right, and he's there for the left hook with the guy that has the type of timing. And of course, we see that obviously Ryan Garcia had the superior hand speed, obviously, you know, so that was just a big problem for him.
Well,
in
two
that fight.
things to double down on what you said. Number one, I don't think he's faced a guy in his career with these dimensions. He's usually the bigger guy in his fights, bigger than Gambosis, bigger than Loma, bigger than a lot of the guys he's fought in the past, like Gamboa, who moved up in age from lower weight classes. That's number one. Number two, to your point, the way he holds his hand, and I talked about this earlier before you joined us, Brian, his left lead is usually low because he likes to up jab, and he can get away with that because he's quicker than most of the guys he fights, right?
And taller.
And taller. So you can get away with that low hand position with that up jab when you've got the athletic advantage, when you've got the size advantage, and when you're known to be a guy that can manage space and distance and timing. That was nullified by Ryan Garcia's length, by his height, and by his speed. That's in terms of the left side of Haney. from the right side of Haney, what Ryan was doing was he was keeping Devin Haney's right hand occupied by posting with the jab, by kind of pawing with the jab, by feinting, and Devin Haney wasn't really able to defend from a hook that was being thrown very fast, probably the fastest hook in the sport of boxing. From
easily,
lead position, he was hooking off the post, he was hooking off the jab, and he was throwing lead hooks. And Devin Haney didn't know when the hook was coming, how it was coming, so he wasn't able to really defend from it effectively by blocking it. You heard Bill Haney in the corner between one of the rounds tell him that he wanted him to roll under it. Bro, rolling under a fast hook is probably more difficult than blocking a fast hook because you're asking your body to do more, if that makes sense. So, look, Ignacio,
real quick, I wanted to make the point about is Mike better, by the way?
Much better.
Okay. I was going to make the point real quick, too, and I was listening real carefully. Derek James came up with that game plan. He's been getting a lot of shit because of the Spence performance and a few other bad decisions, but I could hear him. He doesn't yell, he doesn't have a very loud, carrying voice, but he kept telling him over and over again, jab, and then you can, and then land the right, and you can land the left. He kept saying it over and over again. So shout out to Derek James, two-time coach of the year. He actually did a great job, and he really redeemed himself after those couple of bad performances.
A big shout out to Derek James. And a funny one, I was at the post-fight presser yesterday, and one of the guys from the audience, not audience, but the press gallery, I guess you call it, was like, well, when Tank beats Frank Martin, do you want the rematch with Tank? And Derek James is like there saying, who says Frank Martin's going to lose to Tank? Because obviously he coaches Frank Martin, and Frank Martin also trains with Ryan Garcia. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, Derek, look, here's the problem with coaches. When you do well, more often than not, it's the athlete that gets the credit. And when your athlete does poorly, more often than not, it's the coach that gets the blame. That's not just in boxing. That's in basketball. That's in a lot of different sports. So, look, if you're going to blame Derek for, Frank Martin's last performance where a lot of people didn't think he looked that great, or if you're going to blame Derek for what happened with Errol Spence Jr., then you've got to give Derek credit for what Ryan Garcia was able to do last night. That's just in my opinion. Listen, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. All right. I'm very happy to have you all joining us. We got a great group of guys here. Slide Tendencies, Big Brian, and my man Nacho, who I'm going to go to next. And I'm very happy to announce that I just hit 5,000 subs. So thank you to everybody watching and listening. I truly appreciate it. All right, long time coming for that one. I pretty much started going lives here in 2001. So it's 2004, about 3 years later, and here we are, 5,000 subs. Let's go. Nacho, talk to me, brother. How is it going, and what are your thoughts?
Not too bad, Maestro. Watching that fight last night, this has got to be the greatest troll job I've ever seen in my life. To get a guy like Ryan Garcia that was doing all the wacky, weird, ridiculous shit that he was doing the entire time leading up to this fight, to make the Haneys think that he wasn't taking this fight seriously. And to a certain extent, he did not take it seriously because he missed making weight. But at the same time, he was able to con them into thinking that he wasn't going to be at his complete best in that fight. And I think they kind of got a little overconfident. They felt they were going to walk in and they were going to be able to win this decision and walk away unscathed. And credit to, like you said, credit to Derek James and credit to Ryan Garcia. They pulled the okie doke on him. They fell into the trap of, meeting Garcia as far as not boxing, but trying to slug with him. And it cost Haney. He ended up getting beat up and he ended up getting knocked down. Like you said, it should have been 5 times, but they only got credit for 3. But that was about as one-sided of a fight after the 5th round as I've seen in a long time. Haney had no answers for what Garcia was doing. And I honestly think the only reason that he survived was because Harvey Dock, like you said, he's one of the best refs in the game. But last night he did way too much in there for Devin Haney. He should have let Haney try to fight his way out of the times he got hurt. And he stepped in way too many times to break it up and kind of just stall the action for Haney to be able to recover. And I agree with you, having watched the fight again this morning. I do think that in the 7th round, when Garcia hurt him, he could have gotten the stoppage, but Harvey Dock just, for some strange reason, interjected himself when he didn't need to, and he basically prevented Haney from getting TKO'd last night. But credit to Garcia for the win. My only question, though, is, Maestro, and everybody's kind of been bringing this up on Twitter and a couple other places I've seen this morning. You can say Haney can move up to 47, and maybe that might help his ability to absorb punches. But honestly, I look at it like this. If you got hurt at 35 and you've been hurt at 40, what makes you think that it's going to get that much better at 47?
It's not going to get much better at 47. And if you guys don't believe me, let's just have a look. I mean, look at the rankings at 147. We're talking about big dudes, you know, Stanionis, Jaron Ennis, Giovanni Santillan is a top. What? I mean, that's a big guy at 147. And for a guy who's had a lot of success fighting guys that are naturally smaller and slower than him, you're moving up to a division where guys are bigger naturally and where, you know, they're quite fast still as welterweights. If I was Devin Haney, a very winnable fight for him where I think he'd probably be able to do well. And you weren't here when we talked about it earlier, Nacho. He got called out by Adrian Broner. That could be a comeback fight if Adrian Broner can weight 140. And if he wants to stick around and do business with Matchroom, I'd favor Haney over Conor Benn, a guy who I've never really been impressed with. And if he goes out to the UK, that could be a big fight over there. But I would definitely not throw him in against a Booksen or against a Giasov or a Santillan or, you know, anybody like that. Nacho, what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, those are viable possibilities. But honestly, I think, Maestro, they're going to go out of their way to not match him up with a puncher anytime soon. They're going to match him up against guys who, like you said, he has the physical advantages over in order to try to preserve him as much as they can, because I think last night's beating really is going to weigh heavily on Devin's psyche, because I think he came into the fight thinking that in a certain type of way he was invincible and untouchable. And now that he's been put on the canvas as many times as he was last night, and he might have gotten his jaw broken, I have a feeling his father is going to really be careful when it comes to how they move him moving forward. I don't expect to see him fight anybody who's as big as he is or as long as he is. Even a guy like, for example, Alexis Rocha would give Haney problems, Maestro, at this point. And Rocha's not even what you would call a heavy-handed guy.
I was thinking the same thing, and I was also thinking about a guy who I saw live against Boots Ennis, Romain Bia. I mean, that guy would trouble Haney, again, because he's physically big and he's got punching power. And
you can't throw him back in the fire this early. He's going to have to rebuild.
No. So MEZ Boxeo says Devin will fight his Mando Sandor Martin, in my opinion. That's a tricky fight.
Yeah, that's not an easy fight.
And let's not forget, Sandor, I thought he knocked down Teofimo twice. He got credit for doing it once. I thought he did it twice. So it's not like he can't crack.
Yeah, a guy like Sandor is not going to be an easy day in the park for Haney. I don't give a damn if he is the bigger guy. Sandor has proven that he's got boxing skills, and he's not an easy guy to look good against. So I wouldn't necessarily run to go make that fight for Haney either, you know? So I honestly think like even a guy like Liam Paro would probably give him problems too, Maestro.
Yeah, and we'll see how Liam does against Subria Matias because he's fighting him in Puerto Rico, La Isla del Encanto, in el mes de junio. So in the month of June, he's fighting him in Puerto Rico. That's going to be an interesting fight. In fact, boxing does it again because that fight, I believe, is June 15th. And I believe it was announced by the PBC yesterday that the fight card between Tank Davis and Frank Martin is going to be taking place at the same day at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was actually talking about that yesterday with my brother Champside. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Champside's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I like Champside. He's all right.
Yeah, Champside's a good dude. Very good dude. Also, talking about good dudes, Sean Nam, former boxing writer at Boxing Scene. I was hanging out with him yesterday. Also a good dude. Check out Sean Nam on Twitter, guys. Very good. And check out his book. He's got a really good book. You guys can find it. I ordered myself a copy on Amazon yesterday. I will get the title of that book for you guys because I forgot. It's got a cool title. Murder on Federal Street, Tyrone Evett, the Black Mafia, Fixed Fights, and the Last Golden Age of Philadelphia Boxing. Billy Drew, you should definitely check that out, as should other people here as well. Check out Sean Nam, SeanNam on Twitter. Great guy.
Ennis trying to bring it back for Philly.
There you go. Hamed, thank you for joining me, brother. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with what just Nacho and you were saying. Like, I think to beat Haney, the blueprint is you got to be a big puncher. Sando can't crack an egg. I think in a boxing match, Haney will beat these guys like Sando Martin and even like, past his prime guy like Jorge Linares. But Linares was the one I think kind of laid the blueprint. Like, if people think the Holden was bad last night, that's where I was very critical of Haney. But then he won, my respect back with what he did, like going to Australia. Even though Kambosos, I think you could argue, was like a B-level opponent. But he did what he had to do to get the titles. And then I thought it was close with Loma. But the signs were there. I think maybe the weight is a bit of a factor because his legs look like they were gone. Maybe he should be only fighting a welterweight from now on. But I'm not going to use that as excuse. I think
But here's the thing, Hamed.
Yeah.
I'm going to step away for one moment quickly. But who at welterweight? Go for it.
He took risks against guys like Lomachenko and even this Ryan Garcia fight. When Ryan came in heavy, he still took the fight. Whether or not he could beat those guys, if he's gonna fight a welterweight, he's gonna have to try and target the champions. I don't know because Crawford's gonna relinquish those belts. Maybe those belts will get freed up. I seen Thurman calling him out. Maybe he could fight someone like that. I don't know. Can he beat guys like Thurman, even this version of Thurman or Mario Barrios? I don't know. It's obviously going to be tough for him now to come back because, he's been exposed. Like, he's obviously a chinny guy. I still think he took some big shots even after he was hurt. I wouldn't go far as comparing him to guys like Khan or even Linares. I think his chin is probably a bit better, but I think he's got to obviously better fight than last night because if you're getting hit like that against welterweights, he'll probably end up getting stopped because the reason why he didn't get stopped, I think Garcia is not the biggest puncher and they are relatively same size. A welterweight, if he's fighting guys like Ennis or I don't know, some of the other guys, maybe even Conor Benn. I don't think Conor Benn is that good, but if Conor Benn is on those PEDs, then he could get hit by those guys.
Can I ask Hamed a question real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Go on.
Do you think that that Ryan got in Devin's head? Did you see all the when he was throwing those big haymakers and missing and stuff? Do you think he might have gotten to him?
Yeah, I think he did, and I think he also underestimated him. Like they had a choice to walk away. I don't even think Bill and Devin and them even thought about it because when they asked him after he came in 3 pounds heavy, I think they thought Nacho and I think other people thought that this was all a plan. I think it was. Ryan definitely Garcia played everyone. I think probably was never intending on coming at the weight, so that I think was being a bit unprofessional. But I think all he cared about was winning. And that's, I think, was his main objective. I don't think he ever cared about that belt. Because when I spoke to him on Spaces a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, will he be moving up to welterweight? And he blatantly lied. He said, I'm going to be a junior welterweight. He even admitted he's never made the 140 limit. I think he came a couple of times under it at a catchweight or agreed at a catchweight, but he's also come, I think, over the limit as well. Like, for Devin, I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. A rematch may be lucrative, but he's going to be obviously a big underdog in that fight.
Yeah, look, a couple things I wanted to mention. Number one, the Sandor Martin situation, and MEZBX, he says, so Devin is going to pay Martin step aside money twice. Sandor is his mandatory. Look, this was actually stated in response to me asking Eddie a direct question at the presser on Thursday, which was, is Devin Haney staying at 140? And Eddie said, look, it was my belief that Devin would vacate the title, but Devin was upset with me kind of for saying that because he wants to stay at 140 and defend his title against Sandor Martin and wants me to start negotiating for that fight after the Ryan fight so that he keeps his title. For me, Eddie's, I'll just say it in a more positive way. Eddie's a very smart guy and is an astute guy and is a very good matchmaker and is knowledgeable about boxing. He obviously saw something in Sandor Martin that he wants Devin Haney to avoid. So the fact that he was saying publicly and openly that Devin Haney would not fight Sandor Martin, to me was like prepping the public or trying to prep the public for the idea that he wouldn't be fighting the guy. I think Sandor Martin is a tricky style for everyone at 140. Not just.
Can I say something? Sorry, I agree. It could be
southpaw. He's got underrated power. I was at the fight at the Garden, Hamed. He dropped Teofimo twice. He got credit for doing it once. He dropped them twice, and there was a very good reason why Teofimo was unwilling to really go for it and get into those exchanges, and it's because the dude has respectable punching power. That's number one. Number two is Julio Guzman's comment about Mario Barrios being a potential opponent.
That's a tough fight, I think.
Pardon me?
I think that's a tough fight. I disagree with. I would say,
look, anybody at 147 is a tough fight for Devin Haney.
Yeah.
Because he no longer has the size advantage against these guys. To me, that's the issue. Go for it, Ahmed.
The reason I was going to say Sandor Martin, I don't think I would favor him. I think Teo struggles against boxers. But if Teo was to fight Devin, I think we'd all probably, obviously, now, even before, I thought Teo would always have the style to beat Haney because he's a big puncher, and Haney obviously does not hit that hard. So style make fights. In terms of why Eddie didn't want that fight, I think it's because he wants Haney to fight on pay-per-view. That fight with Martin is not going to sell. The Prograis fight did like 50K. The Sandor Martin fight, I don't even think would crack 20K, if I'm being honest. And DAZN are now putting these fights on pay-per-view in the UK. I don't think that type of opponent would be viable. This Garcia fight, they managed to sell or put it on pay-per-view in the UK. I think if Haney is going to move forward, they're going to probably want him to fight guys like Ennis or Conor Ben. So I think he could probably end up moving to welterweight. And those fights, Eddie will probably be able to, tell DAZN you can put those on pay-per-view because those will be big enough fights, especially if it's Conor Ben and Haney or Conor Ben and even Ryan Garcia. I don't know which way both guys will end up going, but I don't know about that belt. I know they're saying he's got the belt.
Is the issue because for the Conor Ben fight, even if it's at 147, I guess you could do the Conor Benn fight at 147 without the belts. You drop the belt, you move up, you fight Conor Benn at 147. I would favor Devin Haney in that fight, personally. But
he would take away Conor's right hand real easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'd bull and matador him, bro. Like Conor Benn isn't quick enough, or I would even say punches hard enough to trouble Haney the way that Ryan Garcia did. And I just think his attacks are going to be pretty readable, and Devin Haney is going to be able to be this defensively sound and win that boxing very cautiously.
Who does Conor Benn have a better chance against then, Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney?
I think he loses to both of these guys. I don't pick Conor Benn Hamed against any top fighter at 147.
I don't rank him either. I think that, you have to base it on their body of work. And if you look at, he knocked out Chris Algieri, who was pretty old, but he doesn't really have – look at his last fight. Clearly, look, man, I think Conor was probably on the juice, because the last guy he fought, Eubank's dad, what did he say? He said that he was still warm, meaning they just pulled him out of the ground. But
yeah, you're talking about Peter Dobson from the Bronx. I know a lot.
No disrespect.
It's no disrespect, but I know a lot of people in New York boxing, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in Staten Island, in the Bronx, in Manhattan. I don't know anyone that was picking Peter Dobson to win that fight.
Yeah,
not one. And then you talk about Rodolfo Orozco. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
He didn't look like he came close to respecting Conor Benn's power.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
And Dobson said in the post-fight too, he didn't hurt me. Dobson said he never hurt me. He goes, I'm fine. I just I couldn't get off what I wanted to get off, and
exactly.
I don't see him doing anything at world level right now.
I don't disagree, but those guys are junior welterweights technically. Haney and before I go, because I gotta jump off. Haney and Devin, they both. I know they may be big guys, but even though Garcia came in at 143, he's not technically fought welterweight at the limit. Whatever. This was meant to be at 140, and he just came overweight. But I was just saying, because I don't think Conor Benn's that good as well. I always thought there was a suspicion with him when he started knocking out guys like Algieri, Cold, and I think it was Van Heerden and maybe a couple of other guys. But I was just thinking how he'd fare against those guys coming up. I think maybe Garcia got the power to hurt Ben. I don't think Haney has, but I think Haney got the skills to definitely outbox him. I'm just interested to see how he do it against either guy, because with Garcia, I think he's still, even though Conor Benn without the PEDs is not that big a puncher, I still think he would have a chance, because if a guy like Luke Campbell can put Garcia down, I think Garcia will always be defensively flawed.
Here's the thing about that. That was at 135. We're talking about a guy who struggles to make 140. I think he's probably much sturdier fighting around 140, 142, 143 than he was at 135. And I also think that he has gotten better. His chin isn't just all the way up like it used to be in those earlier fights when he was fighting at lightweight. Like, he'd literally be throwing the jab, backing up, and his chin would be like way up in the air. That's not as much the case anymore. In fact, I didn't really see that much of that on Saturday night. At least from
he was using too, and it gets a little bit overshadowed because of the knockdowns. But Ryan was using the shoulder roll last night, not as a defensive tactic. He was trying to get Devin to throw at him,
so that he could counter him.
Yeah, so that he could counter right hook, and it was working. I really believe deep down. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Devin's a great boxer. I really believe that Ryan just got into his head. He was talking about killing him. We hope he dies. And Devin don't fight that way. And he probably thought, you know what? This guy's drunk. He's fucking around. He's not taking camp seriously. I'm going to go out here and destroy him. And He
I'm gonna
left himself open.
I'm gonna.
You just muted, Maestro.
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. Before you guys go, if you don't know, this is Punchlines. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Punchline.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.
So I'm gonna end it on this one, Sly and Ignacio, and because again, there's this whole theory of Devin Haney not taking Ryan Garcia that seriously, and people believing that Ryan wasn't essentially committed to boxing. And look, even after the fight, I mean, he was kind of trolling people with this. I don't know what you guys thought, but it was 420 here in the United States, which is a holiday for cannabis enthusiasts. This is Ryan Garcia. I wouldn't say moments, but a couple hours after the fight at the Barclays last night. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Let's go.
Haney Pat, nigga. Haney Pat,
Oops, actually, I got it. Remove this because I had it muted. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. Let's do that again. Here we go.
Haney Pat, nigga. Haney Pat, nigga. Yeah, nigga. Yeah, Haney Pat. Yo, Bill, where you at, Bill? Yeah, Bill. You looking like Bill Cosby tonight.
Come on, man.
I mean, there's Ryan Garcia smoking what looks to be like a super big blunt last night after the fight. Slight tendencies, your thought as we get out of here.
Yeah, the idea that, it's 2024. It's not, weed's not a performance enhancing drug. And, if anybody deserves to take something to help with their mind a little bit, it's people that get punched in the face for a living. So I think with all the problems and the stress and stuff in the world, and you got to realize too, guys like Ryan, he can't even walk out. He can't even check his mail without getting mobbed by people. So when people, what example does this set for the children? Come on, bro. Like, he's a human being. Let the guy live a little bit. Let him have fun. Same with David Benavidez. Let the guy have a drink a little bit every now and then. Let the guy let loose. These guys they're not robots. They're human beings.
There you go. No disagreement from me there. Nacho, what are your thoughts?
The only thing I gotta say about that, Maestro, is to a certain extent, I do think this kid wasn't at 100% peak performance. He wasn't. There's no way that him drinking beer at the weigh-in and then him having been at a club in New York like 3 nights before the fight, and some people were talking about he's over here ordering bottle service and drinking 3 nights before the fight.
Do you think he could have made 140 if he was a little bit
I think he could have made 140 if he was legit dedicated. I think he was messing around, and I think he just he lulled the Haneys into being overconfident. I think that was his whole strategy, Maestro, because he literally was acting a fool and not really doing anything to convince most of us in the public that he was being serious. That's why Haney was such a huge favorite last night. So the fact that he literally pulled the okie doke on a lot of us and he won last night, it's really surprising, because I sure as hell didn't expect him to win that fight. I was picking Haney to win a decision like 8-4 or 9-3 last night. So the fact that he went in there and he wrecked Haney, and basically now Haney has got to kind of start all over and figure out what his next move is going to be. And Garcia is kind of the one now who's like the big name in that division. It just literally flipped everything from what it was 24 hours ago. It's insane.
Let's get out of here on this. I'd like you to rank these potential opponents for me in terms of order for Ryan, in terms of your interest in seeing these fights. And I'm just throwing these out, not in order. Tank Davis, Teofimo Lopez, and let's go with Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Nacho, you go.
I would say out of those three, probably Tio would be the number one pick because Tio is going to talk and then the dads are going to go at it. So that fight, I think you could legitimately sell it. And I think it would be a very interesting, clash of styles between Garcia and Lopez. Probably after that would be Pitbull, only because Pitbull isn't much of a talker, but he's going to come to fight.
Oh yeah.
So he's not gonna like
You got the
participate in.
whole Mexicano versus Chicano rivalry right there.
Yeah, and that's another factor as well for sure. That would definitely play into the promotion as well. The only reason Tank is at the bottom is because I don't ever see that rematch happening, Maestro. Tank and his team have made it very clear they are going to be ultra selective as to who he faces. That's why he's taking on guys like Frank Martin right now, who Frank Martin is a good fighter, but he's a prospect. The guy has never beaten a contender, and he's 29 years old, and he's still a prospect. So that tells you right there what Tank and his team are doing as far as his career trajectory. I don't buy for 1 second that they're interested in facing Garcia again. I don't think Tio. I don't think Shakur. Who knows? Maybe Haney might be the one that they go after because of what happened last night. Maybe Tank and his team are the ones that are jumping to the front of the line trying to fight Haney now because of what happened. But in reality, Maestro, I don't see Tank doing anything where he actually takes on a guy who legitimately is a 50-50 fight moving forward. It just seems like every fight, the scales have to be tilted in his favor in order for him to take the fight.
And the funny thing is, I asked Ryan about that at the post-fight presser yesterday, and he pretty much admitted that that's what he learned from the experience with Tank, right? That he's never going to put himself in a disadvantageous position again, and he's only going to put himself in advantageous positions. But I like the Teofimo fight. I like the Isaac Pitbull Cruz fight. Sign me up for either of those. Notice I didn't mention Subriel Matias because I don't think anybody is running the fight Subriel Matias.
Nobody's kicking the door down for that one.
Yeah.
No.
Honestly, Maestro, he is the dark horse of that division, and none of those dudes are gonna fight him. And it sucks for him because he legitimately is the toughest guy in that division. Like, there's not too many guys in that division that can beat him. I think Matias is just gonna have to move up to 47 and challenge the other guys that are in that division, and maybe he can make his name at 47. Because at 40, these dudes are gonna avoid him like the plague.
What about him just defending his IBF title belt? Kind of like B-Hop did for all of those years.
Paro, he ain't no joke. He actually beat Montana Love the way that Ryan kind of overwhelmed Devin. Montana couldn't hurt him. He couldn't hurt Paro, and Paro bullied him after he wore him down a little bit. And
right now, we have so much boxing to look forward to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Canelo Munguia. We've got Neri against Inoue. We've got Fury versus Usyk. We've got. I'm still interested in Catterall versus Taylor.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, it is. We've got the 5v5 headlined by Beterbiev versus Bivol, right? And in that mix is a fight that I think is the hardcore fight fans fight. It takes me back to Boxing After Dark days on HBO. This is that quintessential Boxing After Dark fight that would get me hyped when I was a preteen and a teen. I'm talking about Liam Paro going to Puerto Rico to take on Subriel Matias. That I'm looking forward to that fight, guys.
Yeah,
for sure.
If he would have fought, so Paro originally was supposed to fight Regis Prograis in New Orleans. If that Paro would have showed up to fight Regis, he'd be the champ right now.
No, he absolutely would be the champ. 100%.
I mean, Regis is on the slide, and
big time on the slide. Listen, I don't know anybody else that said this. So if there is anybody else that's said this, feel free to argue with me with this point. But I don't remember anyone else out there saying what I was saying after he fought Danielito Zorrilla. And what I was saying was I thought Danielito Zorrilla won that fight.
Yeah.
I thought he beat Regis Prograis that night. Like everybody was blaming him for he was boring, he didn't want to engage. Listen, you have a strategy, and it's up to your opponent to effectively dismantle that strategy. Regis Prograis didn't do that. And if he did do it, he waited until like the 11th or 12th round, if memory serves me well. I thought Danielito was doing great. And Danielito didn't get credit with a knockdown in that fight, if you guys remember.
Yeah, they robbed him of that.
So after that, I absolutely predicted that he was going to lose to Regis, to Haney, which he did. And God only knows where he's going to go after this, but we'll see.
He's been around a long time. He has, and he doesn't have the same path. I'm talking about Regis that a lot of boxers had. He got in late. No amateur record. And he did well for what he had.
Yeah, no major promoter. So Reesmack is agreeing with me. He said he had Zorrilla beating Regis 115, 112. Yeah, so did I. To me, it was clear. I mean, and he kept moving the same way over and over again, like missing punches by like a meter and a half, 2 meters at times.
He gets this thing where he gets kind of like stuck in like a shell where he's just like, you know what? And he just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's probably age, but it happens, It's kind of like Pedraza now, where Pedraza was this great thing, and then when he got older, he keeps doing the same thing. He won't change anything.
I agree. So listen, guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, supporting my channel, being on here, dropping these insights on my live streams. I'll go to you first, Ignacio. Any last words?
Yeah, like I agree with all the fight cards you were mentioning right now that we have to look forward to. It's going to be a pretty good time to be a boxing fan. Just one quick question for you, Maestro. On that 5 versus 5, what do you think of the Hamza Shiraz against Ammo Williams fight?
I'm going with Hamza Shiraz on that. And Hamza Shiraz was also selected by Frank Warren to be his captain. So that's double points to Queensberry if he wins that. I'm also picking Daniel Dubois over Hrgovic, which I think is a hot take, so to speak.
Wow. That's definitely an underdog pick.
Yeah, definitely that's an underdog pick for sure. But I think he's gained a lot of confidence after that big baby fight. I think that fight was perfect for him because he dealt with a little bit of adversity, but he also surpassed the mental hurdle of having to dig down, surpass that adversity and kind of put the naysayers to rest, so to speak, because don't forget, people were predicting him to quit in that fight. And he did have a little adversity. He fought through it and he won by stoppage. So I thought that was good. I also think, believe it or not, and people may disagree with me on this, that the quote unquote loss to Usyk was a little bit of a confidence boosting effort in itself, even though it ended the way it did, because I thought I thought that was a legit body shot. I'm sorry. And mentally you'll be able to take that loss knowing, hey, I got a body shot in there. I have not been that impressed by Hrgovic recently. I just haven't. I don't think he beat Zhang, and I don't really think he's been that impressive. So I'm picking Daniel in that one. The tough one for me, honestly, is Zhang and Wilder. I don't know what Wilder has left. I look at his physique and at those legs, and I say to myself, if Zhang can show up closer to 260 than to 300, that can box behind that high guard, he's a very good defensive guy in terms of parrying shots, blocking shots. If he can push Wilder back and use his size and his weight, I don't want to see 300 pounds of weight, but 265, I don't even want to say 270, like 260, 265. You don't need to be that much heavier than that.
He was real blown up for that Parker fight. Real blown up,
bro.
He looked like Butterbean, Maestro, in that fight against Parker. It was pathetic.
He did.
He was real big.
So that one is the tricky one for me. And to be honest, I'm also picking Nick Ball over Raymond Ford too.
Yeah, me too.
So really,
can Can I interject really quick on that one?
Yeah, go.
I
for
think you got to give. I think Ford is a live underdog, Maestro. I think after taking on a tough
Is he the
guy
underdog
and
or favorite?
Oda, I think he's a little bit of an underdog.
Okay.
I think people are going with Nick Ball, but I think you got to give Ford a little more credit because he just beat a tough guy in Odebek. So he's not walking in there.
This has nothing to do with his skills, my man. It has nothing to do with that. This is my issue. And again, you're free to disagree. I'm going to go right back to Ignacio. It's two things. Number one, for the last 3 fights, Raymond Ford has been complaining about making 126 pounds. Right? And I was at that fight in upstate New York. That was a brutal, grueling fight. It was
knockdown, drag out.
It was a much harder fight for Raymond Ford physically, especially with the hard weight cut, than Nick Ball's fight was against Ray Vargas. And I actually thought Ray Vargas lost that fight. So I'm basing it primarily on the toughness of that last fight combined with his struggles to make 126 pounds. This is not an indictment on Ray Ford's skill set. Ray Ford wants to move up in weight. Ray Ford said he was moving up in weight. And then all of a sudden, we find out that Ray Ford's fighting in the 5v5 at 126 pounds. And Eddie Hearn's gone on record saying that he's going to go out and find him a nutritionist. If everything was going well, why would he need a nutritionist?
I'll tell you why, because he's trying to get that Saudi money.
Exactly.
Because he knows they're going to pay him. They're going to increase his profile with that video. And he's going to be on and not only that, he's going to be on, there's a chance for him to be seen on 2 platforms that night. And, you know, that in itself, that can make you a household name depending on how you perform.
Yeah. So right back to you, Ignacio, because I interjected there. Go for it.
No, it's just I don't disagree with what you said. I mean, but the thing is, though, if he does get a nutritionist and the weight cut isn't as tough on him, I mean, who knows? I think he could legitimately give Ball a tough fight because, I mean, like you said, Maestro, Ball didn't get physically punished by Ray Vargas. If anything, he's a lot fresher than Ford is compared to his last fight. But I just think that, like you said, Ford wants to kind of probably get this last payday, and he wants to just kind of make a statement against like Nick Ball. So I think he's a little bit more of a live underdog. But no, I don't disagree with what you said. If the weight cut ends up being a detriment to Ford, then Ball should win that fight for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really what it is to me. It's about a guy who's been on record saying that he struggles to make weight. I mean, I listen to Chris Manning's podcast. I think it's one of the best boxing podcasts out there, especially from somebody in like the mainstream media. And he was being interviewed about it before that fight, and it seemed clear that this was going to be his last fight at 126, and he was only doing it so that he could win the title. So we'll see how it goes. He was also lumped up pretty bad in that fight. You know,
he pulled it out at the last minute. He could have lost that fight.
He did. He was down on all of the scorecard going into that last round. So, or at least on 2 of the 3, either all or 2 of the 3 anyways. Sly tendencies. Last word goes to you, brother.
Yeah, just great night of boxing. Couple bad judges a little bit. I think overall though, it was just a great night. It was a great night. It was what boxing needed. A lot of people talking shit, a lot of haters, a lot of people saying that the Haney versus Garcia fight was a mismatch. Ryan didn't deserve it. All this other stuff. And you know what? He woke up today. He's he probably is the face of boxing right now over everybody. He's got the sales to prove it. So, and you know, look what we got coming down the pipe. We got undisputed at heavyweight, undisputed at light heavyweight. We got all kinds of great fights coming on. So I think everything's in a really great spot.
Absolutely. I did say I wanted to end on that last one, but I do have a question for you, Ignacio, because you weren't here earlier. Do you agree with me that Joe Martinez is the most underrated ring announcer in the sport of boxing? I think he does a tremendous job.
Having seen him out here on the local Golden Boy cards, Maestro, years ago, out here in the LA scene.
Yeah.
I think he is a really good announcer. The thing is that he doesn't get a whole lot of attention because he's not on a major platform. He's not like with ESPN, or he's not with quote unquote DAZN, because DAZN has that guy David Diamante doing most of the fights.
David Diamante. Golden Boy has Joe Martinez.
Yeah, no, I know.
love
But
Joe
what
Martinez.
I mean is,
Me
Joe
too.
Martinez is literally doing MMA cards lately for the PFL. That's
how I was introduced to him.
underutilized he is. Yeah.
He's really good, and I like the inflections of it, his voice inflections. His pronunciation is like perfect in English and in Spanish. His catchphrase is not corny, like that boxer guy. Raise your drinks high and get wild.
He can put the inflections in. He's I actually seen him. He used to do the Apex cards during COVID, during lockdowns and stuff in the UFC, and I was like, I like this guy. I don't like all these corny Bruce Buffer and all these guys. Go away already, man.
Sorry, but that other Golden Boy guy's pretty corny though. He goes, what does he say? He says, 2 diamonds, 1 ring. Which will shine the brightest? It's golden time. Like that. Like
diamond to gold.
You don't need all of that. Just like the way that Joe Martinez does it is perfect. Like I don't need any changes. He does a really good job.
Yeah, no, he does. I think he's been underutilized by Golden Boy. That's why, like I said, Maestro, he's been doing PFL MMA cards as well recently.
Wow. So last note from me, just big up to Joe Martinez, because I think he does a tremendous job. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Nacho,
Yes,
I
sir.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
He's my brother. I really appreciate it, guys. And
Thanks,
enjoy
everybody.
your week. I'm on spring break this week, but I'll still try to drop some content. If there's anything you guys would like for me to talk about, feel free to reach out to me on IG, on X. You guys can email me. My email's in the description of all of these videos. So thank you so much, guys. You have a great week wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.
Yep.
Peace out, guys. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and take care, everybody. This was Punchlines.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.